welcome to another exciting episode of Token Podcast. I'm your host and sometimes referee, the friendly neighborhood, Zach Stat Pearson. And today, I'm joined by he who is not a cop, but still is at the same time, a one Officer 9000.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And I'm joined by a new challenger for the day, guest starring podcast, man of many talents and a very, very cool gaming lounge, a one Fight Insights, Timmy B.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right. You want to tell us a little about yourself and your podcast?
Yeah, man. So my name's Timmy B, as it's come to be on the podcast. It's the Fight Insight podcast. We're on Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you get podcasts, pretty much. Audio and video podcasts, such as yourself. We began a couple years ago during the pandemic. We had nothing to do, so a buddy of mine and I got together and we decided we would start running an MMA-based podcast. To kind of turn into more of a combat sports podcast because we do boxing and Muay Thai and,
Cool.
and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever. And we did it just for fun. We didn't think it would be anything. And the next thing you know, we started getting guests from the UFC, fighters from ONE FC, fighters from Bellator, and we're like, holy crap, I guess we're just going to keep this going. And here we are. We're at episode 118 as we record this one now.
Wow.
We've been solid once a week. We've never given up once we started. And yeah, cool guests, man, that I've been lucky enough to call friend, after meeting them. And it's been a good ride, and it's been a cool experience, and just happy to keep doing it. So if any of your listeners want a second favorite podcast after yours, then we would be happy to be that second one.
Well, hey, I'm always happy to see somebody, start from the ground and just build themselves up. I know that very, very well. Officer is actually possibly one of the oldest members and technically the first guest star we ever had. He was back
Right.
from when we was doing this on Skype and no one had, an audio interface or a big mic. So,
Yep.
Yep.
Rough
Yeah.
time.
yeah.
Yeah, man. And, as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, that's the biggest thing about this for podcasting. Like, I remember when I started, someone told me the stat was that like 99% of podcasts die after episode 10.
Yeah.
Right. That they don't make it past 10 episodes. So that was a big thing. And look, I thought a million times about giving up. But then something always cool happens or something exciting happens, or we line up some guest that I'm like, holy crap, I never thought I would get that guy or that girl. So I'm still going. And the thing that you said about the logo, that is so important, man, because my logo right here, I don't know if you can see it on my shirt.
No, I can see it.
But my logo took literally like 1,000 revisions. Like, we had multiple different artists trying to figure it out, like what we wanted. And it was crazy, man. But you can't settle for less than what you want, right? Like, don't settle for less than perfection in terms of what you want. You just got to be willing to just keep asking and keep demanding, like the next change. So I hear you. Don't give in to something less than what you want.
If I can just at least pay homage to it in a new upcoming logo, I'm going to be so happy. But that's enough about gushing about design.
Yeah.
Okay.
That said, I was brushing up on my Portuguese when I started researching Token Games podcast, but then I realized it wasn't you. So I did see that one.
Man, it's no secret that I have a affinity, we'll say that, for South American women, but Brazilian women have a very special place in my heart because they are basically the equivalent of a people rainbow. Not many people know this, but the second highest amount of Japanese descent people outside of Japan actually live in Brazil. It's not uncommon to meet Japanese or see Japanese wordings and hear Japanese in Brazil. Moving on, because I'll be here all day on that shit. All right, so since you're a first timer, not to insult you, but I'm going to make sure everyone has heard the rules. Officer, prepare to be bored since you've probably heard this literally more than anybody outside of me. But number one,
Likely.
Number one, we do not care about you using 4-letter words. We do not care about you playfully or comically making a threat or a quote-unquote attempt at wanting to fight somebody. Stuff like that could easily be misconstrued. We play fighting games. If I say I want to bash somebody's head in, I'm probably talking about a fighting game. So I wouldn't hold you to a standard that I myself wouldn't. However, we do draw the line at death threats because, that can have some blowback. However, if it's someone who is universally hated, like, hey, I want to kill Hitler, no one's going to do anything other than clap for you at that point. And finally, we do respect LGBT plus ideology and mentality. However, we do acknowledge and accept that sometimes, a belief and what is fact or what is law can get misconstrued. So instead of, dogging someone for it 9 times out of 10, we'll probably just end up having a discussion and the episode will become better for it. But generally speaking, we respect all kinds here. The only people who aren't welcome are those who advocate hate and hate groups. If you advocate hate, it needs to be, again, towards somebody everyone universally hates, like Hitler or Andrew Tate, which, oh man, if there ever was a ass I wanted to put my foot in, for example. Ha ha ha, joking.
Or
Ha, ha, ha.
perhaps Konami as well.
Well, I mean, your favorite thing in the world is to shit on Konami. I can't even deny it. I feel like all the hatred that this group has ever had for Konami as a company, you absorb like a sponge and just say, I'm going to keep this on reserve. Like,
Not too wrong. It's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, like I know you're new here, Timmy, but let me tell you, a lot of people got mad about the Hideo Kojima fiasco, but it turns out they had decades of, for lack of a better term, abuse of their employees. Officer was livid for years, and I'm not even joking. Sometimes he would end the episode with just saying, fuck Konami. The episode has nothing to do with Konami. But he was like, no, fuck them anyway, because someone has to. He actually said that once. I was laughing on and off for a week. I'm not even joking. It's still kind of funny. Oh, man. All right. Any questions so far?
No, I'm good.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get into it. Since you're the guest, we're going to let you go first with all of your questions. The way it works normally, we flip-flop between the format, but when we have a guest, we have one particular format, which is you answer all the questions verbatim. And then after that, the next person goes, and then the final person goes. And if you have any questions or they have any questions, they'll ask. But I do like to keep my interjections very, very civil. So if someone does ask you a question, it's not meant to be offensive. It's a genuine, I want to know how you came to that opinion or conclusion situation. All right. Sounds good. For the listeners out there, I'm going to read off the topics because 90% of y'all do not read the descriptions. Topic 1. Hacking free content has now led to a ban for the latest entry in the popular game Street Fighter 6. In fact, Capcom has made a public statement that those who utilize the beta and demo with hack tools to access the base content are banned from upcoming international tournaments. Had to update that a little bit because they did some clarification not too long ago. Number 2. Is this excessive for a punishment, or should potential participants essentially clam up and accept the ruling? If licensing for combat sports often leads into massive dysfunctional work schedules, human rights violations, and terrible games, let's be honest, should gaming companies even bother with the license at this point? It feels as though a better product can be made without it. And lastly, Marvel Cinematic Universe may be immortal, but on paper, but actors aged. Do you think that Marvel should shift which characters they see as important on the small and big screens, or do you prefer they simply recast current and popular characters, obviously when they age out of the role, retire, etc., etc.? All right, Timmy, you have the floor.
Would you want me to answer just the first question for now?
Or you can you can answer which one you want. I prefer you go in order, but you can do what you do.
Okay. So the first one is about the hacking the content and then getting
an advantage.
Getting banned for life.
Yeah,
man, of course. Like I don't know, it reminds me of, there's that weird stuff right now with Nintendo. I don't want to go too far off on a tangent, but there's that weird stuff now with Nintendo. Like,
we enjoy tangents here.
We're doing the mods on Zelda, right?
Yeah.
All the people that have been making those multiplayer mods and stuff like that. That's a little bit different because I think people might have been making money off those mods, maybe. So I guess maybe that's a little bit of a problem. Another thing that's funny is I'm in Toronto, Canada, and we have Fan Expo here. So that's our big comic book video game convention once a year. I'm always really surprised. You can go down into the artist alley where there's a whole bunch of independent artists, and they're just selling all their art. And some people make some fantastic stuff, whatever. But there's a whole bunch that are just drawing licensed characters like Super Mario Brothers or Wolverine or whatever, right? And I'm always wondering if that's legal. Are they allowed to just make art on all those licensed properties without having any ability to do so, and then just selling all that art? It just always seems weird to me.
I actually have the answer to that, but I'm in a different country, so I don't know if it applies for you.
Oh, okay. But yeah, if you're hacking into this game, into Street Fighter, just so that you can access it, I can see that someone would say, well, then what's the point? But really, the ban to me doesn't seem that big of a deal. you're only banning a very select few people that would want to go into that international competition. Like, are we assuming that there's a lot of people that are doing that?
It's
That go into that international competition that
it's
would be
more
even
like
affected by this ban?
it's more like the odds of someone who's going into that competition having these advantages is almost in the 90th percentile. However, at the same time, you can't really track them. Yes, some of them do have YouTube channels and they expose themselves, but
Right.
the rest of them just don't have YouTube channels or don't care about YouTube, and they will even stream or just play at their leisure these cracked versions of all of this. Remember, the cracked beta wasn't like a new development. That happened last year. So imagine somebody going in, playing that cracked beta, closed beta, which was already supposed to be private between a small number of people, and transitioning into the demo where they've stated they barely noticed a difference, and then taking one of those characters, two of those characters, or hacking all the rest of the characters to be open, and then going directly into the tournament. Theoretically, yeah, if you are participating in a tournament, they know you thought about it or you are already doing it. However, I feel kind of like you. If you have no way to even properly enforce this, why even have this ban?
Uh, yeah, no, it's not about no. No, I think I'm saying like I'm fine with you doing the ban. I just don't know how many people it's actually going to impact because what I'm saying is I would think that there might be a lot of people that are hacking it that have no intention to go into international competition. I
Oh,
think that
totally.
there's a bunch of people that might just be hacking it just for fun, just to see if A, can I hack it, and B, if I do, okay, cool, I can see some new characters or whatever. But I would think that that's probably like 99% of the people that are hacking it. So it's only going to be those few people that hack it for the purpose of practicing so that they can get into the tournament. And then my second question is, when is the first tournament? Like, how long will the general public have to play the game and get good at it before the tournament? Like, what kind of advantage is this guy even getting?
Yeah. Rough estimate, at least for the people that are doing it and going to the tournament, you're looking at close to almost a 7 month advantage. But, you know,
Now hold on. Now you have to hack it and have someone of good enough and equal skill to also practice on. Like you're not going to be practicing against the computer on hard mode, right?
yeah,
Like that
most
to me
people
that
aren't.
also wouldn't make sense.
No, I mean, I totally agree. It's just, I don't understand why they're trying to go this far with it. The best guess I've had, I think I talked to Officer about this not so long ago. I think what it is that they're worried that people are going to take the other characters that they locked, which is very fucking stupid for a demo. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Street Fighter 6 demo, but Ryu and the guy nobody likes, Luke Paul, is the only two people who are playable. But the game's
Right.
data doesn't just feature those two people. It
Right.
features the base roster in its entirety. So theoretically, a hacker can just say, "Oh, well, why even buy the game right now?" Or they can also just say, "Well, you want the demo to only use characters I don't play? Let me go and get this tweaked, quote unquote. Let's call that tweaked, and go play the characters I want to play. And now I'm sitting on top of them for weeks or months at a time with an inherent advantage because the CPT, to my knowledge, is supposed to start the week after the game's release. So from the week after the game's release, you hypothetically might have maybe half of the people who are competing potentially playing characters that they shouldn't have had that much time with, almost at the point of being over a 6 month, depending on who they want to play. And I'm just sitting up here like, I don't know how y'all are going to properly regulate this at all. I don't envy their position.
Yeah, I don't know, but it just seems so negligible. Like I get it, so I have no problem with them doing it because they want to, but really the impact overall is negligible.
Yeah,
Maybe it's just a show. Maybe it's just a show to be able to say like, "Hey, look, if you do something which is illegal, like we don't want you to do this, then there is a punishment." Like maybe it a lot of times, and this happens in my world in the UFC, right? Like you always look for them to to do penalties or do things to set a standard so that in the future it doesn't happen. It may not have a grave impact right now, but maybe it's just like drawing a line in the sand so they can say like, hey, look, we're taking this action. The next time it's going to be something worse. The next time it's going to be something worse. Like maybe they keep it like that. Maybe this is just the first one that just seems inconsequential to you and I, but then in the future, it sets the groundwork for them to do something more. In reality, you guys got to fix your stupid demo. Like, it shouldn't have all that information in it. You know what I mean?
Thank
Like,
you.
you got to tie
I'm like
that
the
up.
only person that even said that. It's like, why are these characters even on here in the first place?
Yeah, because I mean, I guess maybe is it? I haven't played the demo, but is it because you can play against all those characters, or
No, you
can
don't
you
even get to
only
play
play?
against those characters. That's the part that blows my mind.
Oh, so it's only those two characters that were unlocked. You
Yup.
can only play those two characters against one another.
Yup.
Yeah, so then fuck. So then it's so stupid. Then you shouldn't have had any of that information in there, even just for people to be
Thank
able to pull
you.
out the image files and stuff like that.
I mean, I don't know how long you've been gaming, but as far back as like the 90s when, hell, I could barely even tie my shoes, I was aware of the concept of data mining.
Right.
Yes, yes, we see your machine.
No, I was gonna say my first one is my regular Nintendo. I started no, actually my first video game system was Atari.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm an old dude, man. I had Atari and then everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was little, you and I both remember when the industry was headhunting companies like whoever the company that made Game Genie and Game Shark. They even had commercials at some points, right? My first thought, and mind you, I know I haven't even hit puberty at this point. My first thought is, if they don't want no one to get a hold of this, why didn't they just take the data out with their computers? Which they can, and nothing stops them.
Yeah.
Like a data mine can't happen if there's not data to mine.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, you think about the old days, like I used to subscribe all the time to the Xbox magazine that every month came with a disc that had demos on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so companies back in those days were making demos. It wasn't the full game on there. I wouldn't be able to hack everything out of that disc,
Yeah.
right? I'm assuming not. It's just that portion that they want you to be able to play. So I mean, the fact that they release this, it seems like it's just sloppy on their part.
Yeah, like
And
this
you got
ain't
to
even
fix that up.
something new.
Yeah,
Um,
someone should be getting fired, or someone probably was fired as a result of this. And then maybe this is just like I said, maybe this is just a like a public image thing that they go, hey, look, we're not going to allow this. This is not appropriate behavior, blah blah blah. And
yeah,
then
yeah, I think it might be that too because this ain't the first time someone royally screwed up. But to be fair,
yeah,
Capcom being a leaky faucet is like saying there are clouds in the sky. Anytime there's a
Very
Marvel
much.
versus Capcom anything, someone snitches. Anytime there's a Monster Hunter, someone snitches. Anytime there's new Resident Evil, someone snitches. Then they also had a giant like 10 gig file size data leak because a hacker threatened to release everything if they didn't get paid. And Capcom said, oh, well, we can pay you in birds. We got two for you, which, hey, I commend them for because at the end of the day, it's just video games. It's not someone's
yeah,
livelihood and they weren't stealing personal data to put on display, right? But
yeah,
like
yeah.
Capcom being a leaky faucet, they should just have adapted to it by now. We don't know when Marvel vs. Capcom 4 is coming out, but guess what? We've had two actors accidentally snitch and delete their comments and then not say anything about it. So it's obviously going to happen.
Yeah. A lot of times they say that those fake tweets are planted though too, right?
Yeah, and
They say
they
a lot of
obviously did it
times.
on purpose. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. Whoops. Because
Yeah.
Capcom, they're known for not having a hard punishment. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not the stingy type, but listen, if everyone has to sign an NDA and some actor goes on and lets everyone know about something, we don't even know what year is going to come out yet, I got enough time to recast you, buddy. Or I could put in
Yeah.
that contract, you snitch, I get my money back.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm in Toronto, and I don't know how you say this, Ubisoft or Ubisoft, whichever one you prefer.
Ubi.
They have a main office in Toronto, and they run player demos. And so many times I've been asked to go to their studio, and then you sit there and you play unreleased games for like a week.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's in super early stages, sometimes it's like done, finished. So all their games that they have, right? Splinter Cell series, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, all those big franchises, right? And so you'll get called in there, and then you play for a week. And when you get there, you have to sign an NDA that says, you're not going to talk about this at all, even during lunchtime when they take you out. And there's normally about maybe 10 or 20 of us. They take you out and they feed you lunch. You're not allowed to talk to anybody like in the
That
circle
sounds
about the
cushy
game or
as
anything like
hell.
that. Like what's that?
That sounds cushy as hell. Like, damn, I'm
The
kind of
the
jealous.
the
Kinda
job?
does,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't like
Oh,
Ubisoft, but
dude,
damn.
it's wicked, and you should see the facility is beautiful. It's like this old, I think it's like an old milk factory, but it is so friggin' modern. Like the renovation is beautiful. They have all these games like snooker tables and whatever, and then it's like an open bar that they have like for all their employees, because a lot of the employees are from Montreal, very trendy people, whatever. And it's just a very cush, like almost like a Google type thing, right? And then you go into the studios, and where the game testing thing is, like you have like your own little setup. It's all like blackened around you. You have your headphones. It's always hooked up to a computer. And then there's people that are like walking behind you that are like taking notes, like almost like you're in a lab, and they're like looking at what you do and they take notes. Like it's a really cool experience
Doing
overall.
analytics.
But yeah, and like I guess the computer's tracking like what I do or whatever. But the whole thing, it's all behind an NDA. Like you're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to talk about the games. You're not allowed to talk about whatever. You do it for like a week at a time, and you can sign up. Like I don't know, I forget how you sign up, but if you just go to their website, I'm sure you can figure it out. And then even still to this day, I keep getting emails asking if I want to be part of another one and stuff like that. It's a cool
If you
thing.
get the
But
time, I would do it
I
just
was,
for the content.
but when I was doing it, I was always thinking, like, I'm always looking at all the other people going like, I wonder who's spilling the beans about this stuff, you know? Like, I wonder who's talking about these games. Where now I never did because I never cared. And this was a while ago, maybe before Facebook and Instagram were so crazy. Like, I could see now someone would just literally walk out of that and just start doing an Instagram story about it. But yeah, I mean, it was a really cool experience. But I've always wondered, like, how companies must know that, look, shit's going to get leaked. And that's just part of the business, you know?
Yeah, I think it's more of a loyalty thing, especially with Capcom. They have a lot of people who do not care. Well,
Yeah.
I'll probably end up slightly altering this part, but there's three guys that have worked on Japanese games for a long time. They use the nickname / alias of Hanzo. Capcom has a Hanzo too. He's worked on, I think, a couple of the Devil May Cries and something else. But I went looking for one of them, only to find out there was another one. And one day he sat up there and just unloaded a bunch of information for me, because he said, "Oh, well, there's a bunch of things I can talk about. I've been working for the game industry for a while." And I just had to ask, like, hey, listen, while I got the translator here, were you supposed to tell me any of this? And mind you, he said in a very polite way, because I have to use a translator at the time because Google Translate is iffy. And also, this is the Skype era. I was like, he basically just said, "Well, who's going to stop me?" I was like,
Yeah.
you're not wrong. Devil May Cry 5 got snitched
Yeah.
on. Resident Evil Remake 2 got snitched on. Resident Evil 7 got snitched on. Everything got snitched on, essentially, that they've made in like the past 10 years. So I just consider them a leaky faucet at this point. At least they're a profitable leaky faucet.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing though, like you said, like loyalty, right? Like it was, I mean, the fact that all of us that were there to take part in the game testing and stuff like that, we were so happy, right? Like you were so happy with it, you were so thrilled that you got to be a part of it. So I think part of that was probably what really kept you from even spilling or talking about any of the games that we were playing or what we were doing, because you're just happy to be a part of the experience, right? Like we weren't real employees or anything like that. So yeah, maybe that's what they rely on, people just being good people.
Oh, Capcom, when will you learn? All right. Moving on. Kind of your specialty. This is the one I expect to take the longest, and I mean that in a positive way. So, you've been through the hell of licensed sports and combat games. Do you think that people should even take these contracts, or should they just make them without them?
Yeah, that's tough, man. I mean, you can't do hockey games and NFL games and stuff like that without using the right teams, though, right? Like, you think that there should be a hockey game without NHL? Is that what you're saying?
Kinda, but here's my thing.
It's tough,
I know
man.
it's not as popular over there or up there, but here's the thing. We had, for lack of a better term, what people have referred to as the NFL apocalypse. Early 2000s, Sega, some other company, and
Yeah,
Madden, they were all sharing the access and ability to say the names NFL and the character licensing. But
right.
EA, in their infinite ignorance, decided, hey, why don't we make sure only we can have an NFL license? So they paid a ridiculous amount of money to the NFL as an organization to get the licensing by themselves for, I think, like 12 years straight.
Yeah, yeah,
And from the second year They have literally never made a quality title, or the quality of the title is so severely terrible that they basically lie and pay people on internet to make it sound like it's not, just to be able to appease investors who might hear that it's shitty. And it went on
Yeah.
essentially forever. And it got so bad to a point where instead of even trying to make a new game every year, for various versions of the game, they will put on the back of the box, this is the same game, but we've changed the logo from when you open and access the menu. I'm not saying that as a joke. They actually did that.
Yeah.
And it even trickled down into soccer. Then instead of trying to make a better game, they started actually not only putting in paid commercials in a video game, they also started adding, the gambling aspect. So it did nothing but go downhill. And the only reason it did was because one company had the license to themselves. And even if they tried to give it to somebody else, they want them to try to pump these things out in less than 12 months and have quality, which was practically impossible.
So it's hard though, right? And I know about that. I know we have the CFL up here in Canada, but no, I was wicked at the NFL 2K series. That was the one I used to play over the Madden. Before that thing happened. Is your question then really should licensing be exclusive? Because remember, competition promotes ingenuity, right? Like when there was the 2K and Madden
Yeah,
going and they're
they
going
were
head
like
to head.
legitimately good. Like,
Yeah, that's because they have to push each other to get better, right? So
yeah.
if my options is, do I want licensing to be exclusive or do I want there to be no licensing at all? Well, no, I'd rather there be licensing, because, and again, going back to the UFC world and stuff like that, I want athletes to get paid. I want people to have more options and revenue streams, right? Like UFC athletes are way different than, NFL, NHL players, right? They're getting paid far, far less. So I would like them to have the option to be able to license themselves, their likeness and whatnot, so that they can get money from those things. But would I like the licensing to be open so that more companies can create different types of games and then maybe see what you can generate and which one sells better and then push each other to be better? Yeah, 100%. Like right now, the UFC games, I don't play those at all. Do you?
I played two, and I've never
Okay.
regretted something so quickly.
It's shitty, man. I go back to the days of like WWF WrestleFest, like a more
That warms
arcadey
my
comic.
heart.
Yeah,
NFL
that
Blitz, man.
shit was
NFL
yeah,
Blitz.
that NFL Blitz, NHL Hits. I used to love NHL Hits. Even if you look at the old WCW Nitro or the WCW NWO Nitro games on N64, WWE No Mercy or WWF
Yep.
No Mercy at the time. I always appreciated like the more comic-y style or the more cartoonish style. I never liked when the WWF games or WWE games and the UFC games have gone to this hyper realistic, but it never looks that great.
And it
So
also
to
takes
me,
a tremendous amount of time they don't have.
Yep.
yeah, it's just they're putting so much time into creating these characters to look so perfect, but then they never look perfect. So all I see are all the flaws in it, and I'm like, I don't want to play this stupid thing. But if you just made a WWF WrestleFest with UFC people, I would probably play the shit out of that game. You know what I mean? But I feel like EA is so invested into this look and in this style of game that they just keep pumping out. They're never going to change. So I would prefer for the licensing to be non-exclusive. Let other developers get a crack at it and a shot at it, and then let the market determine which game we like best or which style we like best or whatever, right? Because one will eventually beat the other out. Okay, and then there you go. And then EA would have to turn about face and they'd have to figure something out, revamp, renew, do something different year after year to create like a better product.
Yeah. I'm very curious how you're going to respond to my answer to number two, because I took a different approach, a
Yeah.
very unique, different approach. All right. Well, all right. MCU time. Samuel Jackson can't live forever.
Yeah. You want me to answer? Okay, I thought you were
Well,
going
yeah,
to go
you're
on.
going down the line.
Okay. So with the MCU question, I would say, wait, read the question one more time.
Marvel Cinematic Universe may be immortal on paper, but actors age. Do you think that Marvel should shift which characters they see as important on the small and big screens, or do you prefer they simply recast current and popular characters?
Yeah, okay. I don't think that's the problem, right? That's the problem with these things. If you show me one more goddamn Spider-Man movie where I have to see how he got his powers, I'm gonna kill someone, right?
Bro, I didn't
Like
even like it when they
I,
did with Andrew Garfield. I'm right there with you.
I don't yeah, I don't need to see Batman. I don't need to see his
Agreed.
fucking I don't need to see his thing. I don't need to see another Fantastic Four. I don't need to see any of these idiots with their origin stories. Never. And I don't want to see anybody with their origin story. I don't care, right? Like just give me the character and let's go. And you can do a few flashbacks here and there, but I don't need a whole movie dedicated to that. I feel like that's such a waste.
That's kind of why
Um,
Deadpool worked for me.
yeah, because you just go in. Like
Yeah,
who cares? Like
his
just
origin
go
was
with the
maybe
character.
5 or 10 minutes, and it wasn't the whole movie. I like that,
Yeah. And I don't know if you like this series, but Umbrella Academy,
bro.
I really liked it. I love
Bro,
that show, man.
I'm still mad. I
Good.
couldn't get anybody to read the book when it was new. That's
Dude,
actually how I found out
yeah,
about
I
My
have all
Chemical
of them, man.
Romance. Cause I had a friend like, oh, I think I know that guy. Like, how do you know him? Like, oh, he's actually apparently like a really good comic book writer. He's been getting awards since he was a teenager. No, he's not. I was like, no, I'm dead serious. Here, oh, here's the book. Okay, that's cool, but I'm not gonna read it. And I was like, fuck you.
Yeah, there you go, dude. There's the three right
Oh
now.
man, you would love. I
Um,
know. I don't know how far it would be for you. There's probably a train that can get you here easily, but you would love C2E2. I believe last year or 2 years ago, one of the lead artists from the entire graphic novel series of Umbrella Academy,
yeah.
came to C2E2. I think he made a killing in autographs. Let's just say that.
Yeah, yeah. No, but like so like you look at Umbrella Academy, look at the series that they put out. The origin kind of was there, but it was baked into the story. Like even with a brand new product like that, with a brand new IP that nobody really knew, and it's very different from the comics anyways, they just went off, and I think that's what helped make it a success. But going back to the main question, yeah, I don't think, look, I think if you want to keep the MCU as it is now and you want to continue this long going story, I think you have to let characters die off. You have to let them get old, let them actually age, and then just kill them off or retire them. Like you need to do that. Now the problem is you're not going to have enough characters to refresh continually. You're going to run out of people. But it's not to say that the MCU needs to continually just take off of what is already written in comics. Like you should be able to branch off and just create your own stories. Like I like Kate Bishop. I thought the Kate Bishop girl was good. I like that series. Most of the other
Hawkeye.
stuff I haven't really even been a fan of, but like let's take that Kate Bishop girl, right?
Hmm.
She can phase out Hawkeye. Hawkeye can get old and be done and move on. Um, and Kate Bishop can take over that mantle. And if this actress maintains and keeps in good shape and is able to portray the character, and if they're able to write good stories and write good stuff, she could now do this presumably for another 35 years, right? Like this girl is young, so she could do this character forever. If you do that and you do that even with the Spider-Man or whoever it is, whatever characters, you could continue to do that, and I would probably prefer to see that rather than you just recasting, because my worry is that if you recast these idiots, you're going to show me new origin stories or whatever, right? And that's just what I don't want to see. So my preference is, find some good writers, which seems impossible to do in today's world, but find some good writers, write some good scripts, let's build up these new characters. And yeah, you got to phase it out. It will be weird that in some time you're going to have an MCU with no Iron Man. Well, you'll have no Tony Stark. You'll have no Steve Rogers, right? Or
Yeah, but
whatever,
for the
right?
next
Like
generation, they never had them, so they might not necessarily miss them.
you might, yeah, you don't have it, or then someone takes up the mantle. Like I'm okay with like a new person becoming Iron Man, but it won't be Tony Stark. So just do that, and then now it's forced again. It's similar to what we were talking about the video games. It forces creativity. It forces people to start being creative about what they're writing. Don't just go back to the comics and say, okay, what story should I lift and load? You got to write a new story, man. You got to build up these new characters.
Oh,
I
I
think that's
like
where I'm
that.
going.
I like that. All right.
Yeah.
Well, guess it's my turn now. All right. So for number one, I mean, I pretty much don't have much of a difference of opinion. I have no idea how you're going to enforce this, Capcom. Number two, this is totally your fault. Data mines and leak have been within your company almost a full 20 years at this point. You even hire and don't even properly punish people who've snitched previously. Now, the main reason, because, I won't say I have like exact perfect access to big companies. That would just be arrogant. But Capcom is one of the few companies in the gaming industry space where I've bumped into people on almost every single tier, with the exception of, like high ranking executives. One of the earliest things I learned was that they actually shifted from having a lot of in-house development, unless it relates to something big like Monster Hunter. So once you're a producer, you have a lot of free reign on how you even approach your team or how your team is constructed. So depending on the producer, they could have somebody do something in-house and use a small team where everyone on the project is allowed to make a suggestion or advisement, especially if they've been working on a franchise. And then there are other groups that'll just say, nah, I'm just going to take whatever I can get or people I already know, and I'm going to try to get me a cheap deal. Case in point, Resident Evil Village. They were on the previous system. The person they put in charge said, I don't want to do it like we normally do. I want a small team. I want everyone to have input. And it became one of their best-selling Resident Evil games because he understood what was wrong, and he was not going to direct unless they could meet his demands. But in the same breath, that shit don't apply to Mega Man. I don't think Capcom even knows what they really want to do with Mega Man, because every time they make a new Mega Man, they're usually wildly successful. Battle Network, people just read it off as, oh, Mega Man Pokemon. Yeah, and how much money does Pokemon make? So it actually got big enough to have multiple different comic book series. It had 3 TV shows and 2 fucking movies. It is huge. It is one of the only 2D Mega Man games games on a Game Boy Advance that has tournament level players to this day. That's a Game Boy Advance game.
To this day?
Yes.
Damn.
Yes. I know because, I used to follow that stuff because it is actually fun. Because here's the thing. Unlike a Pokemon where you get 4 slots and you get 150 of them. Yes, I know there's more, but I'm not counting all of them, goddammit. You can go and put all of the powers of those Pokemon in one character. And on top of that, instead of using 4 abilities at a time, you can hold roughly 35. You get 30 in a deck, but the characters, based on what type of style you're using or armor change, they get 5 extra functions. Now, compare that to going and run around through some grass and praying you find the one that you like and then evolving that guy when you got one guy compressed and can do it all. That's what got me. Also, the music was ridiculously addictive. But that's what got me. It was a perfect storm of everything that can go right. And since then, practically nobody's even gotten close to emulating it. That's why Battle Network is so unique. Instead of hundreds, if not thousands, I think we're at the thousands on Pokemon. Instead of thousands of Pokemon for you to catch, here's one guy and you can give him thousands of abilities, but it's still balanced.
I think it's a little over 1,000 Pokemon, but yeah.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. Where would I be without you? So
you can't have thousands when there's only 1,000.
You'll always be my favorite grammar Nazi. Moving on. So I think that, instead of giving people a slap on the wrist, if they at least at a bare minimum investigated how this happened and whose fault this was. I know firing people is considered extremely taboo in Japan, but if they at least show that they will rain down fire and brimstone for things like this, future snitching will be less common. They had people beta testing DLC characters from Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite who were also in the tournament, and they were also the snitches. And then when he got caught, there was no ramification. And he got caught within hours of snitching on himself. How do you, I don't get how they register that their biggest problem isn't that they have the snitches. It's just that you do not properly even make attempts to get rid of them or to make it hard for them to do. That's the biggest issue. That's where their true dysfunction is. It's not in the administration, it's management, which is slightly different. Administration is how everything functions. Management is how people are cared for or supervised. That's the issue. So I honestly feel like there was no point in them making a rule whatsoever. If anything, they should have said it quietly, looked them up when they tried to sign up for CPT, and see if they used a hacked version or if they had closed beta access data somehow by looking at their machines, which I know is already excessive in and of itself. But there was really no proper way to regulate this, like you said. If anything, they should take this as a learning experience and they shouldn't even wasted their time with it. Now, if it was somebody giving themselves infinite HP and this was an online tournament, fuck them. All right,
I
so
mean, to be fair, maybe they did. Maybe they have done a whole bunch of them quietly, right, and not told people. And maybe this is the fifth or sixth time. We don't know, right? If maybe they
fair.
did it quietly the whole time, but
Yeah, that's what I'm
yeah,
saying. Like the and it's not even like it's every company that's big. It's like it's a very small handful of companies that habitually have leaky faucets. It's Capcom, it's Ubisoft. Ain't nobody snitching on Sega, but to be fair, a lot of people ain't looking at Sega. Um, I mean, the only reason we even looking at them now, and this was almost a topic, is because everyone knows that Japan as a whole is horrendously successful at fighting the concept of a union. Sega is one of the only people to use that lose that bout, which is a benefit no matter how they look at it. And now Sega actually has unions. Like you should be championing that, but no, they see it as a loss. Which Sega's logic has been backwards for a long time. We all know that. Look at the Sonic franchise. Um, all right, so moving on. Now this is why I say my answer is so unique. Here's what I think. I think they should go and take everybody with a license and then immediately flip them the bird. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because I was born in a very unique time space when it came to sports games. Sports games still had to be games, and a game has to be fun. And in order for a game to be fun, it doesn't necessarily have to follow the rules of the sport it's attached to. Or you could take a sport activity and make it an aspect of a game. How many fighting games are there with characters that are themed after a sport? It's really just two, but they're there. Now I had NFL Blitz. It was basically an arcade game. I saw arcade machines for it. You
yeah,
essentially you essentially could get a character and your job was to get the ball and try to get it to the other side of the goal, just like regular old football. But these characters had special animations when it came to tackling people. For some reason, you could make everybody's head a Tyrannosaurus Rex, which was kind of funny, or you could give them what people call DK mode back in the day, which was really, really big heads, long arms, and just super deformed looking stuff. And you also had a built-in turbo meter. Now imagine if they had evolved that gameplay. How would an NFL Blitz in 2023 play right now? You would probably have characters who could run on the wall, or you could have video game characters guest starring with special abilities. Let Mega Man be in there, and instead of tackling people, he could slide past them, or he could charge up a blast, and he can shoot when he does a pass that no one can steal. You can just feel your brain creating ways to do this. They even had this with Mega Man Soccer. I thought the concept of Mega Man playing soccer was stupid, but people with special abilities playing a sport is always cool because it's something that's right on the realm of reality but unreality at the same time. So I think they should just make a good game that features the sport. Yes, you can make those one-to-one things all you want to. That's fine. And if you really, really want to have some characters that are like legends of the sport, get their licensing. Get temporary licenses. Go grab Pele, Get something that everyone is going to universally say, like, wow, that guy's a legend. I might look at this game or play this game because that guy's a legend. Even if 30 or 40 people in the roster are not, actually human beings. It's okay to do that. As long as they do the bare minimum of what needs to happen. They need to present the sport in a positive light, and they also need to make sure that the game is fun. Those are the two principles that should be attached to any game that is based off of an athletic recreational activity. Okay? Now, as far as the more serious tone where you get those one-to-ones and getting all the characters for a team and stuff like that, I don't think they should die. However, a lot of these companies, they're gonna immediately start fighting people once they realize no one wants to pay those ridiculous fees. Because let me ask you something. If someone tells you, hey, I've been making really, really good football games for 10 years. We even have joke teams, which happened in 1 year. There was even a Jamie Kennedy Philly cheesesteak football team in one game. It was really good.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, that was real. Look it up. Jamie Kennedy Philly cheesesteak football team on Google. I promise. I don't remember what football game it is, but it's real. They even let him come in and do animations for his own tackles. That's love. That's love for the game and also love for the sport. You wanted to make a quality product. Now, if I got to go to some billionaire or a group of billionaires, 100 millionaires, whose main concern is how many t-shirts can I sell because my team won, and they tell me, oh, we'll give you a license and you can get the entire league, $100 million, take it or leave it. Oh, and you only get it for 8 months? Why would I do anything other than laugh in their face and flip them the bird? If you're going to force somebody to take something they already like, or two things that they like, and ruin both of them, I don't want the option. But at the same time, in the same breath, the fact that, depending on how you do it, you could license the entire concept of something kind of pisses me off. If I make a hockey game that every Canadian loves, and it doesn't feature any mainstream characters at all, but it has guest stars of people who just like hockey. Maybe, Jared Kiso, everyone loves him right now. And then all of a sudden, I get a notice, a cease and desist order saying, hey, the entirety of the NHL said you can't make a game that features the game of hockey. Nah, boo boo, fuck you. Because we can't get any money off of you. So you're either going to come to us and we charge a ridiculous amount, or we're going to charge you a small amount, but we're going to kill you on the back end. We're going to take 70% of the profit. Again, my response would be, why wouldn't I just laugh at you and flip you the bird and walk away? But that's unfortunately the world we live in when people care more about money than quality. Because I honestly believe that you can't trust a major $100 million and $1 billion sports organization when it comes to how they're perceived in a video game space. Because a lot of them that own these companies, they don't play the games. They know they don't play the games. The players play the games. But the players are not the owners. And rarely is an owner also a player. So the way I see it, they're going to try to screw you over the minute they see that you're doing successful because they see you as a threat or a competition, or they're just jealous you're making money. So I say, don't even try to get a license. If you get someone cool from the sport, that's fine. If you get a celebrity who likes the sport, that's fine. But don't even try to get a license because it can go so well and then they'll just try to bleed you with more and more and more money. There's no scenario almost where it ends in something positive. So why give them money at all when I can do it myself? But that's just how I feel.
There's a game coming out right now to kind of go off of what you're saying, but there is a game coming out right now. It's a wrestling game. And I've seen it. I've seen some trailers for it for Switch. I'm sure it's going to be on everything. But it's a wrestling game. It's all of its own independent names and characters, but it has licensed a few people like Sergeant Slaughter or Jake the Snake or whatever, like some old legends, like
Bro,
exactly like you're saying.
If you find that game, please give it to me.
It's just look it up. Just look up new wrestling game Switch, and you'll find it.
Cool.
But it looks good. It looks kind of like WrestleFest.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more pixelated and whatnot. The problem with what you're saying is that you just need to make a good game. Like the problem is like you need to make a good game. Like you can create whatever characters you want, but the gameplay has to be good and the art direction has to be good. Like you need something to pop. Because if I'm looking to buy a hockey game, it needs to be visually appealing. That I'm going to divert from the official, NHL whatever game. That's the problem, is that people need to be creative and they need to be smart. It's similar to like what we're talking about the Marvel movies, right? Like you have to be creative. I feel like the problem that you're experiencing right now, or what we're all experiencing, is that people just aren't creative enough. They're just not creating anything exciting enough that's going to cause me to look differently than where I was already getting my fix for. So
I am already interested in figuring out how to have you on another episode, and I don't even have topics, man.
hey, there we go.
All
Happy
right.
to be here, man. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, well, officer can't tell you anything different. Like, I don't get on here to be in an echo chamber. I get on here because I like hearing ideas. Because what you said, obviously, that wasn't my conclusion. But I still value what you said, and I honestly think you are right. All right.
Yeah.
So, going into the Marvel section, look, I have a very unique position because I have to kind of sort of word myself correctly. Before the assumption is made of me having some deep ties with Disney, let me just get air the stuff right now. I only have a bias when it comes to specifically DC films and cinematography versus Marvel films and cinematography. However, this is about the people, not the companies, but the people who are working with the companies. And one of them happens to be one that I have been heavily and more heavily affiliating with over the years, to the point where, I've even tried to apply for certain positions, not acting stuff, but like actual positions. In fact, he did it in front of a room full of like damn near 100 people. The senior vice president and editor in chief of Marvel currently gave me his business card like a month and a half ago, trying to get him booked on the interview. Feel free to come to that if you want to. But laying all my cards on the table, this isn't about a corporation as, oh, these is about the people. So I'm gonna just get that out the way for someone claims I don't bring this up. Listen, I love Samuel Jackson. In fact, I've loved his entire career. I even photoshopped my mom bald to realize that she kind of looks like him. And I'm just like, man, I hope when I get old, I look like him. So when I yell at young people and tell them shut the hell up, they'll think it's a meme, but no, I just want them to shut the hell up. They're interrupting my shows. But I know that one day I'm going to wake up, and unfortunately, much like with Mr. Rogers and much like with Stan Lee, I'm going to wake up and be in a world where they don't exist anymore. We're going to wake up in a world where they're going to be retired. We're going to make up in a world one day where people may actually recognize Emilia Clarke when she walks down the street. That woman is a ninja. I've seen it. She can go in a room full of people, be around celebrities, and no one not know who she is, and even ask her to take pictures of the celebrity. It's happened multiple times to her. I want to know how she does that. But I digress. So I think that Marvel should take a twofold approach. First and foremost, they have more characters than anyone really knows what the fuck to do with. Their current roster is somewhere around 4,100 fully. Now, mind you, those aren't all superheroes. In general, named characters, they got about 4,100. They've been around as a company almost 100 years. Remember, Marvel didn't start off as Marvel. So you include when they had their name change. They were originally Atlas. Captain America himself is 90 something or 85. He been around. So making a new story ain't really going to be necessarily easy, but originality was never supposed to be easy because it's originality. However, they need to get more comfortable with adapting stories that don't necessarily involve a big name attached to a very super popular character. And they know it's successful, because I'm going to tell you right now, Blade, Iron Man, these were not names that opened doors. Iron Man couldn't even get a fucking cartoon show that was a full 30 minutes by himself when I was little. He had to share it with the Fantastic Four. And fun fact, Mark Hamill played Hawkeye. But they need to get really comfortable with the idea of building up newer characters or characters that are less popular and then elevating them, but also having characters that start elevated, but they don't have a long backstory. And unfortunately, I don't think they realized that until maybe right when the pandemic started. Because here's the thing. Kevin Feige said that they were going to be trying to cast for younger people. That got misconstrued into people thinking, oh, he only wants young, virile, sexy bastards. Like, no, he wants people who can play these characters potentially 20 years at a time. Even if they're only in 5 movies, they're that character for 20 years. Right?
Yep.
I understood that. Alison Brie, unfortunately, was one of the first people they went after. They changed her contract a lot because, well, they couldn't stand her. But, I get it. You got a case of a good talent, a raw and pure, unbridled, creative person who can do in front and behind the camera, but her fucking personality needs some adjustments. I don't even tell people I'm an Alison Brie fan. I tell them I'm an Alison Brie watcher because she is going to do some extremely epic and creative stuff just based off of the stuff I've seen her be in charge of. And none of it's like, stereotypically condescending right-wing lie bullshit. Oh, everyone who puts a man down hates us all bullshit. It's good. But then she goes and just does the most insecure and petty things online. You shouldn't hate Chris Hemsworth enough to where Marvel made a cartoon episode about it. I don't know if anyone saw that one. Marvel has an animated show called Marvel What If. It's basically a what if situation where if things were different in the MCU, but it's completely animated. There's a whole episode of what if Captain Marvel and Thor hated each other. I wonder where they got the idea from. Yeah.
That is what that came from? Oh my fucking God.
Yeah, he even blacklisted her on Twitter. But We'll get into that story later. I know you're gonna want to hear that, officer. I'll tell you after we're done recording. Um, I like them trying to seek and find new people, but also sometimes they don't want to respect what came before, what made their story popular. Everyone likes Miss Marvel, aka the second Miss Marvel, which is Kamala Khan. They skipped over every possible story with Captain Marvel, aka the original Miss Marvel. Probably because people don't realize, but she wasn't a solo act when she first started. She was hanging out with the X-Men. And what do we not have in the MCU? X-Men. Deadpool doesn't count. Shut up. So,
Can I break in for one quick sec?
go right ahead, sir.
Fun fact: the actress that plays Kamala Khan lives and grows up in the same city that I am, just north of Toronto in Markham, Ontario.
Oh shit.
And she goes to my comic book store a lot. So the same comic book store that I always go to, that's where she goes. And when she was getting popular for the Ms. Marvel show, when she would do interviews like with Disney or whatever, she would always talk about the comic book store that we go to, which is called Heroes World in Markham, Ontario.
Bro, another
Side
Canadian
fun
fun fact. So,
Yeah,
I didn't plan on it, but apparently at some point in time, I don't know if you were in the age group that watched the original X-Men cartoon growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
so we all know it's weird. It's one of those things where technically it was wrong, but also, nepotism in Hollywood is like saying there's a cloud in the sky. But the Caucasian lady who played the Asian character, Jubilee, who is also the original Claire Redfield, I somehow ended up becoming friends with her fucking husband. I know, right? What are the odds? And this is like what I don't even think he knows I have a podcast. Like I just ended up becoming kind of sort of friends with her husband. And I'm even on her private Twitter because she got the public facing one for kids and the private shit.
Yeah.
But
Now, are you allowed to get her to do a voiceover where she can say, "Hey, this is Jubilee, and welcome to the Token Podcast"?
I mean, yeah, she does interviews and all that. You just have to ask her on the private Twitter. But if
Do
you're not
that,
on the
dude.
private Twitter, I can get her for you if you want to book her or something. Not a problem.
That's awesome.
Here's the thing though. He actually writes comic books, but here's what got me. She played Jubilee, which she's acknowledged she probably shouldn't have been, and she's not going to reprise the role, but she's still listed. I've been saying for years she should be Firestar. Goddammit.
She's not coming back for the same voice.
She chose to purposely not be Jubilee. Right? She chose it she did it by choice, her own volition. But she's also
she's worried because she's worried that there's going to be backlash.
Yes, but also she knows that it shouldn't have happened in the first place, though. That's what you have to remember. It wasn't supposed to have happened. Oh yeah,
I don't know, man. I got a problem with that, but okay, fine.
I mean, I would love to do an episode about it because I'm actually kind of torn myself.
Was Jubilee in the comics?
Yes.
Wasn't she born and raised in America?
No, I believe she was an adopted Asian woman from Australia, or she was an adopted Asian woman from New York. She was never Caucasian.
No. I know she's supposed to be Asian, but she wasn't born and raised in Asia, right? Like talking the comic book character.
She was an orphan from New York, I believe, or she was an orphan from Australia.
So why would? Yeah, all right. Anyways, whatever.
No, I mean, hey, look, you can. I
don't get it. They want an Asian actress so that she can have an Asian accent, or just for the fact that they need an Asian lady to be the voice of an Asian character.
I think it's for the bilingual aspect, but also, again, even if they didn't recast an Asian woman, she still wasn't going to come back by her own choice.
That's too bad. Are more voices screwed up? Because it's gonna really piss me off.
Well,
now
no. The part that makes me sad is how many of them are dead. A lot of them are dead.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay, I didn't.
Cyclops is gone. Beast is gone. We lucky with Gambit. But yeah, there's a lot of dead ones.
They better find voices that are just exact copies.
I ain't mad at you, man. I kind of agree. But also
they have to find voices that are. They have to be the same because I just watched the trailer for the new revamp of Tiny Toons.
I didn't even know they were coming back. That's news to me.
The voices are all off. No, the voices are all off.
Well, they got older.
And I'm like, fuck it. No.
Well,
no, you got to find voices that are exact. We've been able to have the exact same Bugs Bunny voice or Kermit the Frog for like 1 billion years. Like, you got to be able to find same voices. But, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of weird. Even though it was called Tiny Toons, none of the actors were children on the show. So theoretically, they don't have to try that hard. But at the same time, you you got to remember when we were watching this stuff, they were already in their late 30s, early 40s. So even if they did get them back, are they really going to sound the same now that they're 70? I love Yakko, but I can hear the difference in Yakko's voice in the new Animaniacs. It's the same guy, but I can hear the difference.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of a fun little story in and of itself. So her ex-husband is a Capcom employee, which kind of surprising, but it's just funny to me that she chose to name her half Japanese child after, well, the same name as a Marvel character, which is hilarious to me on some level because I'm like, I don't think you planned this. I haven't asked her about it, but I feel like she chose a name. Her kid's name is Blade. He's grown, by the way, so it's not like some secret shit. Went to one of the best schools in Canada, like literally. His name is Blade. So you're not going to be Jubilee anymore, but your character has the same name or alias, if you will, of a Marvel character. That's just kind of fucking hilarious to me. However, she is listed to be in every episode. So the way I see it, she's playing a new mutant. I really want it to be Firestar, but that's just me. I feel like she would fit Firestar. Plus, she's been dyeing her hair red so long, people actually think that's her natural color. Yeah. But, you know, if you ever want to book her or talk to her, like, I could probably help you set that up, real talk. Anyways, so I want them to transition into kind of what they're already doing. I don't want them to just play a popularity contest because I'm going to tell you right now, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, these names did not open doors. Iron Man, kind of, sort of, but not by much. Those went from being, those were career makers for everybody involved. They were career makers. No one knew or cared who Charlie Cox was till he got to Daredevil. Feel a bit sorry for Iron Fist, though. I mean, it was a case of good actor, terrible direction, and terrible direction with terrible accent. Because I don't know if you've watched Defenders, but technically, he starts in Defenders. Now, if you look at Defenders Iron Fist, how he spoke, his literal accent and elocution, yes, it's a real word. And then you go look at him in his own series. It's literally like it's two different people with the same face. But on top of that, they did the worst thing that you could do for a season 2 that had to make up for season 1. You made the supporting cast more important than the main character. That's when you fucked up. Was season 2 really good? Yes. There was no way it could be terrible. They had fucking, not Bloody Mary. What's her name? The one with 3 personalities. Crap.
Typhoon Mary?
Yeah, Typhoon Mary. They had Typhoon Mary's legs. There was no way you were going to screw up season 2. Anytime I was having a bad day or if it was a bad episode, here comes Typhoid Mary's legs and plot.
Typhoid Mary, that's right.
Yeah, Typhoid Mary's plot combined with those legs to save everything. Because it was so weird how the more they focused on people that weren't Danny Rand, the better the show got. They messed it up. They messed it up completely. In fact, I feel like season 2 should have been season 1. I've told people this a lot of times. If season 2 was season 1, they might not even be getting rid of him. He's one of the only actors they're considering not bringing back or into the MCU in an alternate version. The only one. That has to hurt.
You know, the problem with that is that I like that guy. I didn't watch his series. I never finished his series, but I watched The Defenders and I liked him in it. I thought he was okay. I don't get it with the MCU with when they're bringing in Daredevil and all of that, right? Mm-hmm. I would assume that Iron Fist and Luke Cage would not be used extensively. Like, I don't see them renewing their series. Like, are they going to be in a few shows here and there? Fine. Like, even Jessica Jones. Like, maybe they'll be in a little bit.
Yeah, that's what the common assumption is, that they're going to incorporate the ones that they like, and anybody who had a show previously, they're just going to make them all the Defenders, and there'll just be a season 2 of Defenders and a season 3. Or some of them will branch off and get their own shows. Daredevil is getting his own show. But we don't know if we're going to get Defenders season 2 or not.
No, but even if you did Defenders, you didn't. What I'm saying is you could bring in the same guy that plays Danny Rand, have him in there for a little bit, and then just let him go off into the sunset.
You know,
like,
only bring him up when there's a movie.
But I don't want them to recast him and then focus on Dragon Fist, right? Like I don't even, or Iron Fist, I don't even see that character as being sustainable long term. Like I don't think that character brings in a lot. It's just as bad as Shang-Chi. Like I don't see those kung fu focused characters being like anything that can really like sustain.
You know, you're
So I
not
feel
wrong.
bad for
Like
that actor.
historically, kung fu characters in comic books have not really maintained a high level of popularity.
Yeah.
The closest you got was Batman. He don't really fucking count. But
Right. Yeah.
maybe it's because there is popularity or because a third party influence may be pumping money into it. I'm not going to make up anything or an
Right.
assumption or stereotype, but we know how it goes when they get involved. But
Yeah.
Shang-Chi's popularity has been more ridiculous over time. So it may be a case of, you know, the cyclical system, which is people like the character gets a TV show, or someone around the character gets a TV show. That's already happening. His sister's getting a TV show. Now, once that happens, you know, people are more interested in the character, so they try to go and find them in the books. So they're not obligated to, but they do try to get people, help them find the character they already like. So if a movie does really, really well, even if the characters are nobody, they're going to pop up in Marvel Comics because they want people to realize it's not a competition, it's cyclical. And that actually did happen. There was an entire arc devoted to Shang-Chi and his family in the comics that has practically never happened before because the movie did so well. And then once they get the books, they'll want to see him in a game, or they want to see him in the next week's show, then another movie, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we all know how it works with popularity. It's almost like a regular celebrity. There are ups and there are downs. Shang-Chi is still riding the bubble. So no one knows where he's going to stop, or if it's going to pop, or if it's going to slowly decline. But he has proven to be, for the time being, because I don't want to date myself, the kung fu martial artist hero who has gotten the farthest in the public persona, in the public zeitgeist since Black Mask. It's basically him in Black Mask. Jackie Chan is a human being, so he doesn't count. Also, I prefer Donnie Yen and Jet Li, but we're not going to go down that route. Rest in peace, John Wick. Rest in peace. So I'm okay with how they're doing it because I know that, well, we up until recently, we all been hearing them. Everyone who's coming out their contract said one of the only things they hated was Marvel can literally show up and put you in a fucking black site in the middle of the night. That is scary as hell. Oh, and you're not going to know where you're going or what you're doing. Bro, no. That is legalized kidnapping to me. And he's been in the movies the most. So I can't remember his name, but the actor who plays Jarvis. Obviously, when Vision was getting popular, he literally said, Marvel showed up in a black van with tinted windows at 3 a.m., told him, get dressed, you're coming with us. Then he was in some place for like 4.5 hours, just eating and chilling before he even knew what he was doing. No, that scares the living shit out of me. I don't care who you are. I wouldn't care if I was in the most safest and most peaceful country in the world and there was no glimpse of racism towards any dark-skinned people. That would scare the absolute shit out of me if I'd never been in the military. Because we know, well, we as in people in the military, we know what can happen if someone tells you you're going to a black site. Again, not going to get into it on here. But imagine someone 19 and 20 at the start of their career thinking that something like that is normal. I want them to mix in people who are popular and people who are good for the job. That's what I want. And I want them to respect the actors more, but also I don't want the actors to, be disrespectful of what they have access to. Marvel is a career builder, even if you already got one. And if you ain't got one, they're a career maker. Because what gets a lot of actors hired? It's not, was your last movie good? It's, do a lot of people like looking at you and watching you? Because I can tell you right now, people feel how they feel about The Rock. But go through his movie catalog. He had a lot of bombs, but they sold well. But creatively, they were bankrupt. And review-wise, they were basically the C students, or they were essentially the bare minimum. But they did well. The Rampage movie was extremely terrible. Why did it sell well? The Rock was in it. It had terrible writing, but it made money. So I think we need to find that balance, that middle ground, just to summarize my idea. We need to find that middle ground between respecting the people who play the characters understanding if you agreed to something, you don't get to magically whine about it when you knew ahead of time. Because don't get me wrong, If you're already filming a movie and Marvel says, "Oh, guess what? Our contract's over right there. So you're gonna come back. They're gonna lose money off of you coming in back for a film reshoot that's only 30 seconds long." Well, guess what? You signed up for it. But at the same time, Marvel should be able to easily conform around something that simple. The biggest issue is they want to hit certain dates and times for the movie production industry. They want people to be put in certain slots or movies to be in certain slots and not mess around with the concept of maybe we should just edit this scene differently because they're super busy. But anyways, I like what they're doing. I don't want just new people. I want new and old people coming in, and I mean that in a senior sense. Don't worry, we're pretty much. It's about to be your turn, officer. I want to see a hypothetical system where someone can audition, someone gets the role, and they could show up in a movie or they can show up in a TV show, and it doesn't interrupt the rest of their job and career. Because here's the thing: how many people in Hollywood are really going to hire you if they know Marvel will make them waste money for hiring you almost like a punishment because you had to go reshoot something that barely even took maybe 30 seconds? By the way, that's actually happened. That's not hyperbole. So I want people to be recast if Marvel is not respecting them. But if the character's popular, don't reboot them. That is the worst thing you can do. Just have someone play the character who is different. Matter of fact, that might end up being what happened with Kang the Conqueror. Or they're going to put the High Evolutionary in his slot because theoretically, Kang the Conqueror is supposed to be the main villain of the next two Avengers movies. But as we know, the actor is, well, getting into trouble. And here's how Marvel views trouble. You're fired until we get cleared that either you paid someone to shut up or you get convicted of it. T.I. been gone. They got rid of him in less than 3 days. So that's what I want, essentially. With that being said, I'm going to hand the floor over to you, officer. Go ahead and let us know how you feel and what you think.
Right. So, topic one. No, Capcom, stop being stupid. No, you're not going to be able to do anything with that new sort of ban you're throwing in place. You're only doing it as a means to make up for your leaky plumbing. Before you apply percussive maintenance to the end of the line, go earlier on in the line and fix your damn plumbing already.
Oh my God,
topic
savage.
two. Let's see here. First off, WWE. Don't bother doing any licensed game for them. Vince McMahon is a really shitty individual who doesn't even provide any proper health care or allow the people who work under him to get in any form of unions. So fuck WWE, fuck Vince McMahon. Let's see here. As for other concepts, other topics, Timur brought up a really good point regarding a competition between different game companies for who makes the best licensed game. I agree with that. It shouldn't just be like Electronic Arts, awful company that they are, who are always doing all the, really, really, honestly, shovelware sports games that, as you said yourself, Zax, that Madden, that was a EA one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is an example of it's just shovelware. They even outright admitted it. So spread the license around. Let more than one company make it. We'll get better games as a result. If one turns out better than the other, okay, maybe they are the ones who get to make it for a short period of time. Maybe 2-3 years they get the exclusive rights to make these games. Then open up the license to some other companies so that the cycle of creativity of improving their games rather than just making shovelware doesn't get repeated. The cycle of improving their games gets repeated, and we don't go back to the old cycle of really shitty shovelware games.
Yeah.
Okay. Last.
Can I say one thing on that you're saying, which I like? Because you're talking about the money thing and the Vince McMahon thing. It's funny because the other way you look at it too is that if you want to look at like this industry as a whole, if you if you allow more companies to be creating the games and you allow more companies to compete with one another, you're also employing more people in the industry. You're letting more people get experience in the industry making games and creating things,
Exactly.
which again, that's better too for the world, right? We're employing more people, we're creating more things. And look, there's a lot of people that buy video games. I'll buy 2 different WWF games, or I'll buy, right? Like it's not like we can only buy one. You know what I mean? So like there's more money to spend. People can do it. It's good. And
Yeah.
that's for a second, because we just talked about it last week. They're talking about, and if you know anything about combat sports, PFL eventually going to buy Bellator. And the one thing that we said is, do not do that. If that happens, then these athletes have less options. Like you have less employers in the market. So the other thing when you're talking about, creating more games and having more companies, and I love what you just said about like almost do it as like a rotating tournament, like, okay, this year you're both going to make a game, and whichever one sells the best or whatever metrics they want to measure it by, the winner, you get to make it for the next 3 years. And then in 3 years, we do the competition again. Can you imagine how friggin' fun that would be in the marketplace? You know
A
what I mean?
real
Yeah, that
life
has a
tournament
potential
art
to
for
go
video games.
extremely well or extremely terrible. I'm curious what would happen. I'd do it just for the experience.
I
Yeah,
will
it's so
admit though,
cool.
the idea that, oh yeah, this is allowing so many more employment opportunities. I hadn't thought of that when I suggested that, but it would in fact do that. And who knows, maybe we'll get more really creative types involved that could
Yeah.
take the games even
You see, that's
further.
why I like putting different brains in a jar. You never know what thoughts will show up.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
Exactly. Anyway, sorry to bother you. All right.
But I wasn't a bother. Topic 3. Regarding, characters being replaced, yeah, I think that is something that should be done. They should allow characters to die off. In fact, they already have with both Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. They're gone. They aren't coming back. At least I hope they're not coming back, unless they do some weird time travel, weird shenanigans or whatever. But we
Multiverse
would know
shit.
about that beforehand because we would find out, oh, hey, they're giving, oh God, what was the name of the actor who played Steve Rogers? Shoot.
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, yes. Sorry. Uh, we would find out because, oh, hey, people would find out he has a new contract with them. As for what it would be, people could jump to conclusions, assume, oh, maybe he's bringing back Steve Rogers or yada yada yada. But who knows? Maybe, maybe not. We would find that out beforehand. But anyway, they have killed off characters. They've shown they're willing to do that, which good on them. If they need to recast a character that perhaps for various story reasons they're still keeping around, I think it's perfectly fine to just put another actor in. They already did it with what was it, a War Machine
War
in the
Machine.
Iron Man movies. But well, as I recall, that was because the director of Iron Man was kind of an asshole,
What you're thinking
a
of?
racist asshole, right?
No. John Favreau was the first director, and he also plays Happy. The douchebag from Iron Man 1 is a guy named Terrence
Oh,
Howard.
Terrence Howard. Yeah.
The
okay,
very,
sorry.
very short version is Terrence Howard is basically refusing to get proper diagnosis for some form of psychological problem. Basically, he may be bipolar or he may just be, self-obsessed narcissist. But either way, yeah, he got problems. John Favreau's an angel.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Then, yeah.
Let's get Terrence Howard on this podcast to refute that though next week. Let's do it.
I'm okay with that.
But, yeah, as I recall, they already had a change with War Machine after the previous actor who played War Machine was rather displeased with that likely bipolar individual we just mentioned. So,
Yeah, they
and
gave
it,
Robert Downey Jr. like close to half of his check in the second movie, and also they told him that your screen time is being reduced So he tried to throw a shit fit thinking that it would mean something. And then he learned a valuable lesson. Marvel takes shit from no one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But they've already shown that they can and will switch out actors, and it worked perfectly fine with War Machine. I'd say Don Cheadle did a pretty good job. If they have to replace an actor because they're getting too old, I'm perfectly fine with that. But on the other point of using characters for too long, I'm glad that they at the end of the whole Thanos saga, they killed off Tony Stark and retired Steve Rogers. Keep up with that. Maybe a little further down the line, we have where Chris Hemsworth as Thor ends up going into a form of retirement. Because, actually, nah, I don't think it's really a spoiler at this point. The most recent movie, Love and Thunder, had, at the end, Thor with an adopted kid. Kind of like how way back earlier in the timeline, Odin adopted Loki. Thor adopted. I forget the name of the kid. What? But sorry.
Bro, I don't even think that the writer cared enough to give the kid a name. Like, literally, I don't
True.
think that child's name got said more than once. However, I am happy that they're changing directors for the next Thor movie because, well, I mean, Taika Waititi's not a bad director. But if you're not gonna respect the character, then you go on interviews basically admitting you don't respect the character and the source material. I don't want you anywhere near Chris Hemsworth. Fuck you. That's how I feel. I
Yeah.
love
Agreed.
Reservation Dogs though. Not gonna lie.
But
But
the thing is though with that though is that because he did such a good job with what was it? Was Ragnarok his first one?
Yes,
Taika?
Ragnarok was like
was it?
it
Yeah.
almost found that perfect balance.
And that's the problem though, right? Then they were like, oh crap, this dude. And then but then if you look at his, his resume of movies, which somewhat are similar, then that's why Love and Thunder comes on. It's like, well, it's
Yeah, they
exactly the
didn't give
same
him
thing.
any restrictions.
Yeah, and now it's going down this path that we're like, maybe this isn't the way that we want this character to go.
Bro, Chris
Yeah, that
Hemsworth
was a tough
realized
one.
it almost immediately. One of his first interviews, he says, "Well, this is gonna be a fun movie for the kids." It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Your movies have been getting progressively better, and they've been showing character development and character progression. That scene to me,
Yeah.
where Thor is talking to Loki in the elevator, is one of the best written scenes in the entire MCU because he understood his role and he understood his brother's role, and he said, "Listen, I'm not really gonna fight you on this, but I'm gonna accept how you are, but I'm not gonna let you ruin, whatever I'm doing in my life." And then he's like, "Oh, well, I can change." Like, yeah, right, fuck boy. And then he proves him right. And then look what happened in the Loki show. Because he had that experience, he now understands I can be more than what I am currently. You can't.
Yup.
And then here comes Taika Waititi just going, "Hey, look, he's got a giant tattoo about how much he loves his brother on his fucking back." Are you fucking serious?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah, well. But on the other point of Marvel having all of these various different characters, yeah, make use of them. Make use of these hundreds of different other characters that you haven't introduced in your cinematic universe and maybe introduce them. Or possibly have those various streaming shows where, use that as a means to do maybe some light introductions or
Yep.
like do little implying of, oh, maybe it's this character is going to be showing up later kind of thing. And then, well, maybe then introduce them. But yeah, that's basically all I have on topic 3 is be willing to. I have no problem if they're willing to, if they want to replace a character replace an actor for a specific character, or if they want to maybe write this with their story writing, go in a direction that has characters retire or die off. It's not like they're releasing content as quick as comic books. They don't have to do, these constant reboots and constantly using the same characters over and over again. They are
Yeah.
allowed, at least I think, with the speed of content that they're releasing, they can afford to go and just have more characters be willing to just step out of the spotlight or die.
Yeah, if you, again, it goes back to the creativity. If you invest in good writing and good production value of your movies, I don't care whether it's Captain America saving the day or, whatever random superhero
Thank
saving the
you.
day, I'm going to watch it. So the fact that they feel like it always has to be Captain America or it always has to be Iron Man, that's your problem because that means you're relying on uh
Tropes.
the fact that like the love of that character as a whole, that you feel like that's going to patch the holes in your shitty movie with the shitty story or the shitty action, right? Like
You were
just
describing
write a good
Spider-Man 2
story.
so well, the Andrew Garfield one.
Right. Yeah, just write a good story, write a good character, write a good thing, and then we don't care whether it's Captain America or some brand new superhero that you create. And then that's why I would go back to Umbrella Academy, right? Like I had no clue who those characters were because it was so well written, so well shot, so well produced. I love it.
Yeah.
Right? You could have taken those
Yep.
exact same characters, those same actors, because those actors were geniuses. Take those exact same characters, exact same superheroes, and put those in the Marvel universe. I'd be hooked. Like I'd be singing the praise of that. So it doesn't matter. I don't need the nostalgia of those characters that I grew up with. And when you're thinking about kids, like those kids wouldn't know any different anyways. When you look at kids and you're walking into
Yeah,
Toys R
like
Us and
they're
seeing all
gonna
the
be
toys,
involved with flashy shit. Like, yes, eventually
yeah, they
some
don't
of
care
them
about anyone.
yeah, eventually some of them will grow up and they will learn the concept of quality. Some will just stew in the I want everything to be like how it was when I was 12. And I honestly hate that mindset because almost every person I've seen say things were better in the past. Well, we all know what type of person those are without me even saying anything. We're adults here. We know how shit works. Almost anytime I've seen a man say when men were men, let's just say he had a very unfavorable opinion of anybody who was different from him. But I I I am one of the people who can honestly say what you just described, Timmy, is legitimately how I feel and what I look at MCU like. Because I see too many people that say, "Oh well, man, I don't watch MCU movies. There's too many of them. They all getting the same." It's like they release like 3 a year or sometimes 2 a year. So that's obviously bullshit. And if you think they're the same, then it's because you just didn't go to them. So you're either repeating some ignorant statement someone who didn't want to put the a minimum amount of time of watching a new movie does, or you don't understand that the whole point of this is to show you different characters you may not have known you like or gain an interest in, so you like the movie and the brand enough to go and experience new things. I'm gonna tell you right now, if the first MCU movie was Shang-Chi, I wouldn't have hated on it. I just wouldn't have saw it. Because does anybody give an honest to God shit about Shang-Chi before before the movie? Absolutely not. But Marvel didn't even use him for I think almost 30 years. Almost 30 years. The only reason he really even got touched in that time frame is because they realized they gave him a unfortunately very, very racist origin to the point where one of the few times ever they've had to retcon someone's origin. It was that bad. But, it was a different time and it wasn't intentional. And like everybody, they fixed it and no one gave them shit about it. I'm sure someone will whine about it who pretends that they care about Shang-Chi, but we know you don't. Because they would have used
Yeah.
them in
Yeah.
in the last 30 years before the movie was coming.
Yeah.
So, but since I have that open-mindedness and I do like the idea of seeing new characters have a good story and good writing, I enjoyed myself. And I say the same thing everyone else who saw Shang-Chi did. The only bad part of that movie was like the final 10 minutes of the third act. That fucking dragon in the water. No explanation, made no sense, annoyed me. Yes, we know a dragon killed this thing last time. You didn't tell us it was alive. Did y'all even know it was alive? But if you just remove that small little part, the rest of the movie is ridiculously enjoyable. Let's be honest.
I'll admit I still have to see that movie. I'll have to remedy that.
Disney Plus is your friend. Okay, Obser, is anything else you wanted to add before we get out of here?
Fuck Konami?
He couldn't resist. He couldn't resist. I mean, it is his trademark. I'm surprised he doesn't have a tattoo of that. Um, all right, Timmy, you want to tell everybody where they can find Fight Insight Podcast?
Yeah, man. Go check out Fight Insight podcast. Like I said, we want to be your second favorite podcast behind this one.
You give me
Okay,
way
so
too
every
much
week
credit.
you watch this one, then you watch us. Yeah, Fight Insight podcast. Fight Insight, 3 words there. So just search us. We're on Instagram at Fight Insight Podcast. We're on YouTube, Fight Insight, Spotify, everywhere you get podcasts. Go, you'll find us. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I don't know. I've been uploading some stuff here and there.
And I
Generally,
will
I just
make doubly
repurpose
sure
stuff.
that there will be direct links to his material in the description.
Yeah, yeah. And the big thing I do want to say too
Mm-hmm.
is we are a combat sport podcast, but you don't have to love combat sports. We talk about stuff all over the place. Obviously, that's our niche, and that's the topics we talk about. We talk about it though from a perspective that anybody can enjoy it. And when we have guests on the podcast, like when we have UFC fighters, we are 100% not asking them, so, what are you going to do about this upcoming fight? So, tell us about your training. We don't ask those questions. If you can hear those kind of questions on other podcasts or on other interviews, then you can go get it there. We always try to ask interesting things of our guests. We try to get them out of their shell, and we try to get them just to talk about like their normal life or enjoyable things or funny things about their life. So, we interview someone different every week, and come check us out. Just give us a try and let me know that you came from Token Podcast so that I can say hello and give a shout out back to you.
Okay. Well, with that being said, Timmy B, you're always welcome here. Anytime you want to discuss anything in the future, or if you want to do some short form content, I am always down. We look at it as, building a new bridge, not just, showing up like a flash in the pan. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one, and you all have fun. Take care.
Have a nice day.